We're in the business of building trust with our clients. It's not just about the investments. And before they hand over their portfolio to you, they have to know that they can trust you. And if you only talk about money, it will solve money problems. It won't solve the emotional and psychological concerns that they may have. Retirement planning today really has two parts to the equation. There's the financial plan and the lifestyle plan. And you need to prepare for both. So, this is something that I used to coach my financial planners all the time when I was reviewing their plans. I would ask them, okay, so here's your financial plan. You've created a good map in terms of how much they're going to need annually and live on and how long the money will last. And then I said, tell me a little bit more about the client. What are their dreams in retirement? What do they want to do? How do they want to spend their time? And they could tell me a little bit about the client, but not a lot. They know all the financials. They know exactly what their risk profile is and what kind of investments they like. And we have to, that's our due diligence. We have to get that. But I said, just tell me a little bit more about the client and talk to me about them. And I wait. And the pause is quite long because they don't have a lot to say. So I said, we need to dig a little bit deeper. And at the end of the day, how can you actually build a financial plan for a client if you don't know what their lifestyle plan?
Welcome back to the Real Retirement Show. My name is Yasmin, here with my co host Kathleen. Whether you're retired or thinking about retirement, we delve into the multifaceted world of retirement beyond the finances. This isn't your typical retirement discussion, it's a vibrant journey into what retirement truly means in today's world. We bring you real stories from real retirees and experts discussing real challenges, surprises, joys, heartaches, and the myriad of emotions that come with retirement. From addressing family dynamics to mental and physical health to finding purpose, we tackle the issues that truly matter to retirees and those thinking about retirement. We are thrilled to welcome Toni Petrillo, a seasoned financial industry leader with over 25 years of experience in building and leading teams. After retiring from her executive role, Toni recognized a critical gap in resources for corporate professionals navigating the transition from a thriving career to a fulfilling retirement. With a deep passion for leadership and confidence building, Toni now dedicates her expertise to empowering individuals through this major life shift. She provides valuable guidance, insights, and strategies to help professionals embrace retirement with assurance and purpose. Join us as we dive into Toni's journey and the challenges professionals face when stepping away from a corporate world and her mission to make retirement not just an end, but an exciting new beginning. Welcome, Toni. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I was really excited to know that we were doing this today because Canadians are sticking together, and I love that you're a Canadian.
Yes, exactly. At the end of the day, we have great relationships and we have to maintain that. So all just white noise that we need to just forget and keep it out there and remember and focus on what's important.
Was important, absolutely, and that's what we're gonna be talking about today.
Well, Toni, I'm curious, would you share with us a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to focus on this retirement transition and experience?
Sure. That's a great place to start, actually. So let's talk a little bit about my story. As you mentioned earlier, I spent 30 years in the financial world, building and managing financial planning teams, actually. So I spent a lot of time on the financial part of retirement planning. And I was, as much as I loved the role and I loved it, did it for 30 years, I was excited about retirement and I had a dream. So while I was working and building my career, I always had a dream about what I would like to do in retirement, and that would be to open up a coaching practice. I wasn't sure exactly what the niche would be, but I knew I wanted to open up a coaching practice. So as I approached retirement, I was really excited about it. And what I didn't expect, though, was the emotional roller coaster that came with it. And as much as you have a plan and you spend a lot of time planning on the financial side, like most people do, right? They make sure that their investments are in order and they have enough funding for retirement. What I didn't prepare for was what my life would look like after work. And even though I had a plan or somewhat of a plan in terms of what my vision would be, it really made me think. And it said, if I'm struggling this way, I can't imagine that others are not struggling the same way. And It made me think that this is what my niche is going to be. And as much as I want to open up a coaching practice, I wanted it to be retirement coaching. And the message is really to raise awareness, just like all my other colleagues and my peers, for anyone that is struggling out there and is not really understanding why they're not happy in retirement, that there is help for you out there. And that's my job, really, to help them navigate this transition into retirement with confidence and get an excitement for this next chapter.
You summed that up beautifully. And I'm wondering, what were some of the biggest challenges when you started this journey?
For me, the biggest challenge was really getting the word out there and making sure that everybody really understood that there was a retirement coach. What are retirement coaches? From a personal side, one of my challenges was really a lack of structure. I thrive in a very structured environment, and not having this sense of structure, leading teams or a sense of purpose, it was something that was a big part of my new life, right? So I quickly had to redefine what purpose and productivity meant for me in retirement. So when I was building my practice, I really based it on those pillars in terms of helping people to understand how to maintain their identity, how to build their social connections and their well-being. So those four pillars were really the basis of my coaching practice, Retire with Intention.
Would you share with us some of the challenges that you actually face that may have inspired a sense of relatability with those clients that you're working with?
So, some of the challenges that I faced, again, it goes back to when I closed that office door. And not literally, it was figuratively because it was during the pandemic. So, it's really more when I closed my Zoom call. But when I did close that, it was a very surreal moment for me. So, after 30 years of having this sense of purpose and this identity, which I realized at that point that as excited as I was about retirement, I realized how closely my identity was tied into my career. And I had to quickly look around and say, okay, well, this is something that is if I'm struggling with, like I said before, I think a lot of other people are struggling with as well. So it really made me reflect and I went into a self-discovery mode. I went to find out who am I beyond my work and my career? Who is Tony or who was Tony before she started building her career and who is she afterwards? And that question is really something that is built in and hardwired into my coaching with my clients as well. So it's really finding that identity, that feeling of disconnection, social connections, and feeling lonely. Those were the biggest challenges for me, I would say.
Thank you for sharing that, Tony. We're not alone in this journey, and what you shared is really powerful experiences that we get a chance to navigate. And are there particular types of clients that really are ideal fit for you in terms of their backgrounds, where they're coming from, and what they're experiencing?
Sure. So I mainly focus on career professionals, people that have really dedicated all of their lives towards a very long and successful career. And as excited as they are about retirement, they too end up feeling a little bit lost. So there's what we call the honeymoon phase, right? And the minute they complete that phase and they start realizing that there's a sense of disconnection, there's a loss of identity, not really understanding why they're not happy and thriving in retirement when in fact they should be. So these are really the target audience or the clients that I help. Having been there and having gone through that and crossed over into retirement, gone through all of those, that emotional roller coaster, I feel like those are the ones that I can help the most and reach out to the most. And that's where my job right now is to really help them transition into this next phase of their life and next chapter of their life with a lot of confidence and happiness, really, because otherwise they're not.
You know, what you're outlining to me is wonderful because you've actually lived it and you have a personal experience.
Right.
And I'm just wondering what makes your approach into this retirement journey different from others in your field?
So, others in my field, I'm going to ask you, Kathleen, do you mean other retirement coaches or do you
Yes.
financial planners and financial advisors? Because they also do retirement planning. So,
What you've outlined for us is dealing with kind of the soft side of it, not the financial end of it. And I'm just wondering, other people who are working in that field that are helping with that retirement journey, what makes your methodology different and sets you apart?
So it goes back to my 30 years in the financial world. So I'd have to say that having my financial background is very much into the mix. And where traditional retirement planning does involve a little bit of, not a little bit, but involves the money side. But what I like to say is I have both the 30 years of coaching a sales team. So that's definitely a strength that I bring into the mix, and a little bit of my financial background. And only because I understand what the retirement conversation is and what clients are living on one side. And I want to really complement the other side of that. So, having seen the financial side, I know there's definitely a gap in the conversation with clients and financial advisors. And I want to be able to complement that when they are retiring. It's a mix of both, Kathleen. It's really throwing into the mix the my financial background, my coaching background. And I always tell clients there's two forms of spending in retirement. There's spending of time and spending of money. And you really do have to prepare both. And understanding both sides of the equation is something that I think is what I bring to the table. That's a strength for me.
That certainly is a unique approach compared to many others. So thank you for sharing that and really explaining it in detail to us.
Tony, with your extensive experience in the financial services world, and I'm curious, are you finding that more advisors are open to having these conversations beyond the financial piece with their clients, or is that something that they're looking for outside expertise to support them?
So there are financial advisors that are starting to see the importance and the relevance of incorporating a holistic conversation and that it does entail both the financial and the lifestyle plan. They're not ready to do it themselves. And I don't blame them. Having run my financial planning team, I experienced it firsthand. As important as they understood what it was, they weren't ready to or even equipped to have that conversation with their clients. A lot of them really started reaching out, "Hey Tony, what do you do as a retirement coach and how can we work together?" And it's I have a call this afternoon and right after this with a financial advisor from one of the major banks here. And he wants to know a little bit more about my business and how I can help him and how we can work together. I'm working with a lot of connections that I had my previous financial planners, where a lot of them are starting to open up and seeing the benefits. And I've created guides and strategies for them as well so that they could incorporate it within their practice without that extra workload. So it's basically just giving them triggers on what to look for when you're having the financial planning conversation so that you could see that your client is also struggling on the non-financial side. And if you make it easy for them, give them the triggers that they need to look for, perhaps some conversation starters so that they could understand, but not be the subject matter expert and know when to say and bring a retirement coach into the conversation and say, look, I work very closely with so and so who's a retirement coach and they can help you with some of these questions and some of these issues if you're looking for help.
Yeah. Tony, have you noticed that there's any friction with regards to adopting this more holistic approach? And where does, some of that friction come from?
Even the ones that do see the value don't know if they have the time. They don't know and I'll be quite honest with this, is what's in it for me, right? They're all financial advisors are all pretty much evaluated on their sales. And I ran that team. So as much as they understood and liked the importance of it, they weren't prepared to really incorporate it into their practice and not understanding the what's in it for me, what are the benefits for my client, what are the benefits for my practice. So those are the three main pillars that I focus on when I do talk to financial advisors. And I really make them understand in terms of what are the benefits for you and your practice. So the one thing that they're looking for is client referrals. And how hard is it to get client referrals? It really does help with clients becoming big ambassadors of you and your practice. It helps with client retention long term. It helps with your asset retention and building trust, which is the number one and the most important thing in terms of the client and financial advisor relationship. So I really do emphasize those three. And we go into a little bit more detail in terms of how they could incorporate that. But I make it very easy for them to spot when a client is struggling on the non financial side and then quickly understand what are the conversation starters that you can to incorporate me into the conversation or a retirement coach, not just myself, but do your client a favor. But those are the aspects that I focus on. And those are to answer your question, as Yasmin, is the tension I feel is that They don't know how to incorporate it. They don't want to put in the work. They don't want to feel like a 1 hour conversation is going to turn into a 2 hour conversation. So make it easy for them.
Wow, that is absolutely what we have found as well. What you're doing is confirming to us we've done so much research, and it's important that the clients are benefiting, the advisors, the money managers are benefiting. And I think it's really important to be able to tie those two success stories together.
Yes.
And what methods have you used? What tools do you use in reinforcing this concept to your financial planners?
So I've built out a few, like I said, a few guides for them to make it easy. And the first and foremost, I have a very honest conversation with them, just like I did. I was their boss and they were my financial planners. And I said, how can I make it easy for you? Or what is it that's stopping you from having this conversation? And a lot of times we get right to the heart of what the problem is. I'm not ready to have a 2 hour conversation on the non financial side. I'm not equipped to have that conversation. I'm not even interested in having that conversation. So we really pinpoint what some of the obstacles are. And then I've just created based on their feedback. And I've done a lot of focus groups, just meetings, lunch and learns with my financial planners and other advisors, and really to uncover a lot of these little questions and concerns that they have. And then I built guides and just conversation starters. What is the importance of financial retirement lifestyle planning? What is it? I give them all these guides and conversation starters and email templates so that if they did have to email a client to do a follow-up, just make it very easy for them, very turnkey, and equip them with just that kind of conversation.
Tony, that you're really making an impact in the industry, and especially the type of approach that you're doing to simplify this so that it makes it easier for those out on the front lines to be able to at least have that conversation and then get them the support through you or others that may be able to dive deeper. When you're working with a new client, what are some of the things that you've discovered is the first starting point to be able to have a deeper exploration with them?
They need to have an open mindset. And there's three things that I focus on in my coaching, and that is mindset is important. So you have to have that openness and be curious because there are a lot of opportunities and possibilities out there, and flexibility. You really want to be flexible and open to change because you could explore all the opportunities out there. And if you're not open to change, then you won't have a successful retirement. So those are the three that I really work on and I start coaching sessions with.
Because of that, I wonder if you can share a story with us that you found one of your clients had a major breakthrough using your techniques.
One of my initial clients, he's a retired lawyer and quite excited about his retirement and had all these grand plans, a very big avid golfer, and was going to hit all the golf courses everywhere and just have fun and enjoy the freedom. And he quickly realized that once he left his career as a lawyer, that he really was a little bit lost without his title. He wasn't sure. He had worked so many years and his identity was so intertwined with his career that as much as he had passions, and after a few months of playing golf, he realized that it wasn't enough for him. And he didn't understand why. That was the big concern is I have all this freedom, I have enough funding to enjoy my retirement, but I'm not happy and I don't feel fulfilled. So we quickly went into a few exercises that I like to use for anybody post career. And one of them is who am I beyond my work activity? And that really helps you understand your core values, your passions. And when we did that exercise, we realized that he really likes to coach and to work with young professionals from a mentoring capacity. So we explored that opportunity. And shortly after, he ended up stepping into that role as one of the mentors for young professionals in the some of the law firms that he knew. And that's what he's doing today is just mentoring young professionals on all the ins and outs. And he's absolutely happy. And I feel such gratitude that we were able to get there together.
That truly is an example of success for sure.
It was, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Tony, what's been most fulfilling for you to be able to support and guide people through this journey?
For me, it's really Raising the awareness and knowing that there are resources. And this is where we started at the beginning is when I did retire, um, I was struggling with my own identity. And even though I had a plan of more or less what I wanted to do in retirement, I could imagine with how people struggle without a plan and just go into retirement saying, oh, I have all this freedom. I don't need to plan. And I think my biggest where I get the most joy is knowing that there are resources that we're building and not just myself. I work very closely with other retirement coaches as well. With one of my colleague retirement coaches, Jennifer, we wrote a retirement workbook that we built these exercises together. And this is out there for them. So whether they want our coaching services, if they feel that whatever stage they're at in terms of retirement planning, if they want to do it themselves and try to see if they could plan for it, then our book is available or other books are available. I'm just happy that we are together raising an awareness for anybody that is in retirement and not feeling happy, feeling alone, feeling disconnected. And to be honest with you, a lot of them are very ashamed to put up or embarrassed to put up their hand and say, I'm not happy in retirement and I'm not sure why, for fear that people will judge them. So knowing that we've created resources and my practice is there to help them, I feel very grateful for that.
Wow, that's really powerful. Thank you, Tony. Hey, when we talk about all these different non-financial challenges and transitions that people might face, as a financial planner, how do you connect the dots between those experiences that people may be going through with the implication of it financially as those things come up? Like, how do you connect the dots between the financial planning piece with the non-financial life pieces that's going on in people's lives?
So this is something that I used to coach my financial planners all the time when I was reviewing their plans, right? I would ask them, okay, so here's your financial plan. You've created a good map in terms of how much they're going to need annually and live on and how long the money will last. And then I said, tell me a little bit more about the client. What are their dreams in retirement? What do they want to do? How do they want to spend their time? And they could tell me a little bit about the client, but not a lot. They know all the financials. They know exactly what their risk profile is and what kind of investments they like. And we have to, that's our due diligence. We have to get that. But I said, just tell me a little bit more about the client and talk to me about them. And I wait. And the pause is quite long because they don't have a lot to say. So I said, we need to dig a little bit deeper. And at the end of the day, the way I connect the dots, Yasmin, is I tell them, how can you actually build a financial plan for a client if you don't know what their lifestyle? How can you plan for that if you don't know that's what they want to do? So that's how I connect the dots.
So it's always about a complete understanding and a deep one at that, and trying to source out that information without seeming to be judgmental or to invade a little bit of their privacy. So I think that's a fine line when you're an advisor and you're dealing with, quite frankly, the unknown for them as well, because it's a path that they, from what you've just explained, they don't understand how to navigate that path.
No, exactly. And at the end of the day, it's what we've been saying. Retirement planning today really has two parts to the equation. There's the financial plan and the lifestyle plan. And you need to prepare for both. And that's what I tell everyone right now going forward. That's what we need to integrate. And I challenge that head on with anybody who I'm speaking to. And we have to have those two parts.
And I imagine, along with that, Tony, is that when someone really feels seen and heard and understood, it deepens that level of trust as well.
And that's my hook with the financial advisors is I tell them we're in the business of building trust with our clients. It's not just about the investments. And before they hand over their portfolio to you, they have to know that they can trust you. And we're in the business of building trust. And if you only talk about money, it will solve money problems. It won't solve the emotional and psychological concerns that they may have. So you need to dig deeper a little bit.
Wow. Or, Tony, I'm curious, what if you could just give one piece of advice for someone who is preparing for retirement, what would that be?
So if I've learned anything in terms of even my own experience is you need to have an open mindset and you have to look at what's ahead of you and not what you're leaving behind. And always stay curious and know what's out there for you. Be flexible and give yourself some time to adjust. and surround yourself with very inspiring people. And that will be a good guide for you to get started for what I feel are the best chapters in your life.
Tony, you've given us so many lessons to take from this interview. I'm wondering, what lesson have you learned from your clients?
I think the biggest lesson for me, Kathleen, is that there's really no right way to retire. It really is individual. It's an individual journey and it's a very personal journey for everyone. If I got anything from my coaching career in coaching in my career is that everybody is unique and their retirement journey is going to be unique as well. Like I said, the key is just stay flexible, remember to embrace change and be open to it. And because at the end of the day, and just embrace what truly brings you joy and fulfillment.
Wow, this conversation has definitely brought us joy and fulfillment as well. And Tony,
Yay.
we're so grateful that we get a chance to spend time together and just the wisdom and insights that you've been able to share with us. Where can our listeners find out more and learn more about your work?
Sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Petrillo, Antoinette Petrillo. It's my full name. I also contribute on a regular basis to a magazine called Booming Encore. A good friend of mine, Susan Williams, found that and is running it. And we run a segment called Ask a Retirement Coach. So I often have a contribute to that segment as well. And obviously, there's my website. There's a lot of resources there, free guides called Retire with Intention. So I invite you to take a look around, take a look at that. And it's really meant to help people design a happy and fulfilling retirement.
Wonderful. We'll make sure to include all of those resources in our show notes so we can access directly.
Perfect.
Kathleen, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Every time we have a conversation, I learn things and I have learned so much. And it was attitudinal as much as a hard, fast conversation. I think the one thing that I learned is to have an open mind and be flexible and a reinforcement that everyone's journey is different. And it sounds to me as though you're on top of those multitude of changes and opportunities for people. So I want to thank you so much for bringing those to us today. And we look forward to hearing more about what your journey is like.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having this conversation. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Thank you for taking the time to join us today. If you enjoyed this episode or found it valuable, please subscribe, follow, and leave a comment or review on your favorite platform. If you have friends, clients, or loved ones who are retired or thinking about retirement, we invite you to share this show with them. Check out the show notes with links to resources mentioned in this episode at realretirementshow.com. Remember, retirement is a joyful journey we get to experience together. Join us next week for another Real Retirement Conversation.